They called it a joke, an ancient relic, a rust-stained coffin drifting through the cold of space. But the galaxy knew another name for it, the Widowmaker, and no one who faced it ever came back. That was the part the alien officers didn't know. Not yet. The docking bay of Station Verex-9 was alive with metallic echoes as the human vessel eased into position. To the alien crews working the airlocks, it looked pitiful. Dull armor plating, patched weld lines, engine ports coughing bursts of uneven plasma. Even the paint was peeling, revealing layers of old war insignias no one recognized anymore. A pair of Krellin officers stood on the balcony, their pale blue eyes glimmering with amusement. Is this what humanity sends to patrol? Our sector, one scoffed. I've seen mining barges with more grace, the other chuckled, flicking his forked tongue in mock disgust. Primitive design, slow engines. It's a miracle this thing still flies. The humans are proud of this, the war is already over. Down below, the airlock doors hissed open. Captain Elias Rourke stepped out. He didn't look like the commanders the Krellins were used to. No polished armor, no ceremonial ribbons, just a black duty coat, worn and creased from years of service. His eyes, a deep gray, scanned the deck. Without a smile, without any sign of recognition for the alien's smirks, those who met Rourke's gaze held it for a heartbeat, then quickly looked away. Behind him, the rest of the crew emerged, quiet, disciplined, each moving with the sharp precision of soldiers who'd seen far too many battles. The Krellins muttered to each other. Something about the humans felt off, and then there was the ship itself. Up close, the scars were clearer. Hull plates warped from impacts that should have torn the vessel apart. Scorch marks where enemy energy blasts had struck, yet somehow failed to breach. Strange angular cuts traced across the starboard side, the kind that came from weapons no one in this sector claimed to use anymore. On the hull, the faint white letters still clung to the metal. HSS Vengeance. The name meant nothing to most of the younger alien officers, but in the darker corners of the station's bar rooms, whispers traveled fast. Entire fleets had gone missing in the uncharted regions. Some said they had crossed paths with an old human warship and simply vanished. A Xyrath engineer, small and insect-like, scuttled along the docking clamps, examining the energy readings. His antennae twitched. "This is strange," muttered in his clicking tongue. "What's strange?" asked one of the Krellin officers. The engineer hesitated, his faceted eyes reflecting the dull glow of the Vengeance's engines. Its core doesn't match any human design or alien design. Energy signature, old but powerful, dangerous. The Krellin officer waved dismissively. "Old human junk. You worry too much, insect." But the engineer kept staring at the readouts, and his antennae didn't stop twitching. On the command deck of the Vengeance, Rourke stood at the viewport, watching the alien docking crews move like ants below. His first officer, Lieutenant Mara Keen, stepped up beside him. "They're laughing." "At us," she said. "They always laugh," Rourke replied quietly. His gaze never left the alien officers. "Until they don't," she frowned. "I think they'll test us." The shadow of a smile ghosted across Rourke's face. Didn't reach his eyes. "They'll try. They always try." Mara glanced at the weapons console. The systems were offline. The ship's targeting arrays were already locked on multiple points in the station. Not in a hostile way. Not yet. Just watching. Below deck, the crew maintained a silent readiness. No one leaned back in their chairs. No one slouched. The Vengeance wasn't a ship for comfort. It was a ship for survival. Outside, the Krellin officers left the balcony, heading to file their docking report, one that would no doubt mock the humans' primitive ship. They didn't notice the faint pulse of dark light that shivered along the Vengeance's hull as its systems adjusted to the station's atmosphere. They didn't hear the deep, low hum from its engines, a sound too old. It's too dangerous and too alive to belong to any normal human craft. Captain Rourke closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the vibration beneath his boots. "The galaxies. Forgotten us," he murmured. "Good. Let them forget. Until it's too late. And somewhere deep inside the ship, the Widowmaker waited. They thought it was just an old ship, a relic from a forgotten war. But by the end of the night, the whole station would whisper its name in fear. The Widowmaker and the humans who sailed her. The alien bar on Deck 17 of Ver X9 was always loud. Its voices in a dozen languages, glasses clinking, holoscreens flashing news from across the sector. Tonight, the noise was different. There were glances over shoulders, quieter tones, nervous frowns. At a corner table, a group of Krell Dawkins leaned in close. "You saw it, right?" one said, his pale blue eyes wide. "I saw the captain," another replied, shivering. Looked at me like he already knew my name. Like he knew everything about me. An older alien, with cracked scales and a missing hand, slammed his drink down. "You fools. That ship shouldn't be here. If the stories are true." "What stories?" a younger one asked. The old alien glanced toward the doorway, then leaned in even closer. "They say that ship, the HSS Vengeance, has fought battles no one talks about. Battles in the dark sectors, whole fleets vanish. No wreckage, no distress calls, just silence." The younger alien scoffed. "You believe ghost stories?" The old one's voice dropped to a whisper. "My cousin was a gunner in the Zarin Dominion fleet. His unit was sent to intercept a human raiding ship. Their orders were to destroy it. They never came back." Of the dockhands frowned. "And you think this Widowmaker is the one?" The old alien's gaze hardened. "I don't think I know." Across the station, Captain Rourke moved silently through the narrow market corridor. His first officer, Mara Keene, kept pace beside him. "They're talking about us already," Mara said quietly. "Good," Rourke replied. "Fear spreads faster than bullets." They passed a vendor selling cheap scrap metal and imitation star charts. The merchant looked up, saw the black coat, and immediately lowered his eyes. Mara noticed. Even the civilians know something. "They've heard the whispers," Rourke said. "That's enough." Back in the docking bay, the Vengeance's crew worked like clockwork, refueling. Running diagnostics, scanning the station systems. They weren't here for rest. They were here for intel. Deep in the engineering section, Chief Engineer Nolan Reese adjusted a power regulator when the Xyrith engineer from earlier appeared in the doorway. "I need to speak with your captain," the insectoid alien said nervously, his antennae twitching. Reese wiped grease from his hands. "The captain's busy. This is important. Your ship. The energy core." The Xyrith hesitated, glancing around as if someone might be listening. "It's not human tech, is it?" Reese's eyes narrowed. "That's classified. I've studied hundreds of reactor signatures," the Xyrith insisted. "Yours. It's different. Older. Than your species, space travel. And dangerous." Reese took a slow step forward, his voice low. "Then I'd keep that opinion to yourself. If you value your life." The Xyrith swallowed hard and left without another word. Later that night, Rourke and Mara stepped into the bar. The noise died instantly. Every head turned. And then, quickly turned away. The bartender, a wiry alien with crimson skin, tried to act casual. "Polishing a glass that didn't need polishing, what'll it be?" he asked. "Information," Rourke said. The bartender glanced around nervously. "What kind of information?" "The kind about ships," Mara added. "Yours, ours, and the ones that never came back." The bartender hesitated, then leaned closer. "You've seen it, haven't you? The way they look at you. The way they stop talking when you pass." "We've noticed," Rourke said. "They're afraid," the bartender whispered. "Afraid because they've heard what I've heard. That your ship hunts in the places no one dares go. That it leaves no survivors. That it chooses its targets." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Chooses." The bartender's voice dropped even lower, like it's alive. Rourke didn't answer, just stared at the bartender until the alien looked away. In the far corner of the bar, a shadow moved, a tall figure, armored, helmeted, visor black, watching when Rourke's eyes met. The figure stood and walked out without a word. Mara frowned. Friend of yours? No, Rourke said quietly. But he'll follow us. Let him. Back on the Vengeance, Reese reported the Xyrith's visit to Rourke. He knew too much, Reese said, about the core. Rourke's jaw tightened. If he talks, it won't matter. No one will believe him. Mara leaned against the console. What exactly is in the core, Captain? The crew deserves to know. Rourke looked at her for a long moment, then turned away. They already know enough. Outside, through the viewport, the lights of Varix 9 flickered faintly, like the station itself was holding its breath. That night, in the cold corridors of the station, whispers spread faster than any. Transmission. The humans had brought a ghost ship. It had no mercy. It had no equal. And somewhere in the dark between the stars, it had unfinished business. By morning, half the station avoided docking bay 12 entirely. The other half came only to steal a glance at the Vengeance and quickly leave. The armored figure from the bar watched from a distance. Recording in the command chair, Rourke studied a holomap of the surrounding systems, its eyes locked on a red-marked sector far beyond safe space. Mara stepped up beside him. You're planning something? He didn't look at her. We didn't come here to rest. We came here to draw something out. Her stomach tightened. And you think they'll take the bait? Oh, Rourke said softly. They will. The whispers of the Widowmaker had begun, and they were about to become screams. It started with a laugh, a short, sharp burst of static over the coms. And then a voice, cold and certain, easy prey. The Vengeance drifted beyond the edge of Erexinine's traffic lanes, its dark hull blending into the black of space. Captain Elias Rourke sat in the command chair, one hand resting lightly on the armrest, eyes fixed on the empty starfield ahead. The crew was quiet. Too quiet. Mara Keen leaned toward him. They've been tailing us since we left dock. No, Rourke replied. They're not subtle about it. They don't need to be. On the sensor display, 3 bright red blips moved in a loose formation. It's closing in fast. Pirates, not the half-starved scavengers that raided supply convoys. These were professionals. Ships sharp and angular, bristling with weapons.
I'll believe.
Vessel was twice the size of the Vengeance, its hull painted in jagged crimson stripes. Over the coms came another burst of static, followed by mocking laughter. Old human ship. Your engines are slow, your weapons are weak. Surrender, and we might leave you breathing. Mara rolled her eyes. They're not very original. Rourke didn't answer. He tapped the armrest twice, and the Vengeance's systems hummed too. Life dot down in engineering. Reese's hands moved fast over the controls. Power routing stable. Weapon capacitors charging. Shields. Well, as good as they get. From the gunnery deck, Ensign Vale's voice came through, eager and tense. Targets locked. Just say the word, Captain. Rourke gave the pirates a moment. One last chance. This is Captain Elias Rourke of the HSS Vengeance, he said over the com. His voice was calm, cold. You have exactly 5 seconds to break off your approach. The pirates laughed again. Static crackled. 5 seconds. It'll take 5 minutes. To strip your hull clean. Wrong answer, Rourke said. The space between the ships erupted in light. The Vengeance moved. And it didn't move like an old ship. One moment it hung motionless in the void. The next it was accelerating at a speed that made the pirates' targeting systems glitch and scramble. Its main guns flared once, twice, 2 lances of white-hot energy slicing through. The dark dot, the first pirate ship's shields, collapsed instantly. The second shot punched clean through the hull, igniting an explosion that sent debris spinning into space. On the bridge, Mara was already calling out vectors. Second target, port side, bringing us around. The Vengeance rolled gracefully, its engines leaving a ghostly afterimage in the starlight. For a ship, the pirates had called primitive. It was frighteningly agile. The second pirate vessel fired desperately, streams of plasma bolts flashing across the black. The Vengeance slipped between them with surgical precision. Vale's voice came through again, low, controlled, lining up, firing. The shot tore the pirates' engines apart. In seconds, the ship was drifting, powerless. The third pirate ship didn't wait. It tried to run. Track them, Rourke ordered. Sensors locked on. The Vengeance's forward guns lit up again, but this time, the blast didn't destroy the ship. Instead, it severed the escape vector, leaving the pirate dead in space, cornered Rourke. Opened comes once more. This is your only chance, he said. Or transmit your surrender and stand down, Static hissed. Then a broken, terrified voice replied, we surrender. Shh. Don't kill us. On Varix 9, the whole thing had been broadcast not by the humans, but by the pirates themselves, trying to humiliate their prey. Every alien in the station had watched in silence as the primitive, whoa, human ship dismantled 3 pirate vessels in under 2 minutes. The laughter stopped. Back on the Vengeance, Mara gave Rourke a long look. You could have destroyed them, I know. Why let them live? Rourke's eyes stayed on the drifting pirate ships. Fear works better when there are witnesses. Hours. Later, in a shadowed corner of the station's comms relay, a message went out on encrypted channels. Not from the pirates. It's not from the Vengeance. From someone else. They're here, the message read. The Widowmaker is hunting again, far away in the cold darkness of uncharted space. Something answered. They came to the docking bay in full armor, weapons ready, and eyes sharp with the kind of fear they didn't want to admit, Captain. Elias Rourke was standing on the Vengeance's boarding ramp when the alien delegation arrived. 6 of them, Krellin officers, their pale blue skin shining under the overhead lights, flanked by soldiers with rifles held tight. The leader, Commander Ural, stopped a few paces away. His jaw was tense, his voice steady, but not entirely. Captain. Rourke, you have violated the security agreements of Varix 9. Rourke didn't move. How so? You engaged in armed conflict in this sector without authorization, Ural said. You destroyed 2 ships and crippled another. They attacked me first, Rourke replied simply. That is not the point. Rourke's eyes narrowed. It's the only point that matters. Mara Keene stepped up beside him, her arms crossed. If you wanted the pirates gone, you should thank us. Ural's gaze flicked to her, then back to Rourke. Your vessel, the Vengeance. It is not registered in the current human naval database. It carries weapons that exceed legal output limits. Its energy readings do not match human technology. That's classified, Rourke said flatly. Not here, Ural snapped. You will submit your ship to inspection. My engineers will board immediately. Rourke's voice dropped. No one boards my ship. Ural took a step forward. That is not a request. The soldiers shifted, hands tightening on their weapons. The crew of the Vengeance scattered along the ramp and bay floor, moved just as subtly, hands resting on sidearms, eyes locked on targets. The air in the docking bay grew heavy. One wrong move, and blood would paint the walls. Before the standoff could break, a thin, insect-like figure appeared at the edge of the crowd, the Xyrith engineer from before. His antennae twitched wildly, Commander. Don't, the Xyrith said. If you value this station, you will not go aboard. That ship. Ural glared at him. Explain yourself. Ah! The Xyrith hesitated, his voice a rapid click. The ship's energy core is not human. It is not any known design. It is old, very old, and it is alive. The Krellin soldiers shifted uneasily. Ural's face hardened. You expect me to believe that? Xyrith's eyes darted. Toward the Vengeance. Believe what you want. But if you step inside, you might not step out again. Rourke spoke, his voice calm, but carrying enough weight to fill the bay. Your engineer is smarter than you, Commander. Walk away. Ural stared at him for a long moment, then at the ship, his jaw tightened. This is not over. He turned sharply and strode away, his soldiers following close behind. The tension in the air slowly loosened, but it didn't vanish. Mara looked at Rourke. They're not going. To stop, I know, he said, which means we leave soon. Later, in the Vengeance's dimly lit war room, Rourke stood over the holomap. Systems glowed in red and blue, shifting slowly in the dark. Reese entered, a datapad in hand. "Captain, you should see this." On the screen was a list of transmissions intercepted in the last hour, multiple encrypted bursts. All leaving. "Varix 9. Someone's talking," Reese said. "Sending word that we're here? Could be pirates. Could be worse." "It's worse," Rourke muttered. In the station's market level, the whispers had changed tone. No more mocking laughter. About the primitive human ship. Now the voices carried unease. "They say the human captain threatened Commander Ural to his face. They say the ship's engines hum even when it's powered down. They say the crew don't sleep, at least not like we do." Somewhere in those crowded corridors, the armored figure from before walked silently, transmitting everything they saw to an unknown location. That night, Rourke stood alone on the Vengeance's bridge, watching the stars through the forward viewport. Mara entered quietly. "You're thinking about leaving," she said. "We can't stay here," Rourke replied. "They're scared of us. That fear will turn into something else if we linger." "What's the real reason?" Rourke didn't answer immediately. He looked at the stars, then at the faint glow of the ship's core status on the side display. "You've been with me a long time, Mara," he said finally. "But there are things about this ship. You don't want to." "No, try me," he shook his head. "Knowing changes you. The crew knows enough to serve, not enough to question." Mara studied him for a moment. "You think the rumors are true, don't you? That the core isn't human?" Rourke didn't confirm it, but he didn't deny it either. Outside, in the cold space beyond the station, something shifted in the dark. Far from any beacon, a massive shape glided silently. A warship unlike any registered in known space. Its hull was black as the void, its profile sharp and angular. Inside, alien voices murmured in a language older than human civilization. They had received the message. They knew the Widowmaker had returned, and they were coming. It began as a flicker on the long-range sensors, a small pulse of light, moving too slow for a comet, too steady for debris. Then there was another, and another by the time the third appeared. The crew of the Vengeance already knew. They were ships, and they were heading straight for them. On the bridge, Mara Keen stared at the tactical display. The blips were growing, multiplying. "How many?" she asked quietly. Vale's fingers flew over the console, counting. 20. 24. They're in battle formation. "Pirates don't fly like that," Reese said over. "Comes from engineering." "No," Rourke agreed. "They don't." Cold silence settled over the bridge. The incoming ships were long, needle-shaped, their hulls glinting a dull bronze under the faint starlight. Spines of weapon arrays ran their length, each tip glowing faintly red. The sensors tagged them as Varaxian warships. Mara's breath caught. "That's not possible. The Varaxians were wiped out decades ago." "Not wiped out," Rourke said. His voice was low, unreadable, scattered, waiting. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. Captain Vale said slowly, "You've seen these ships before, haven't you?" Rourke didn't look away from the viewport. "I have. Years ago." He had been a younger officer, fresh in the human navy, serving on a different vessel, the HSS Resolute. They had been patrolling the edge of human space when the Varaxians appeared. The battle had been short, brutal, half. The fleet gone in under an hour, the Resolute crippled, burning, and then Vengeance had arrived. A ship he'd never seen before. A ship that moved like nothing else in the galaxy. A ship whose core burned black and red. It had destroyed the Varaxian flagship in a single shot. And afterward, the captain of that ship, an old man with eyes like stone, had handed command over to Rourke. "Keep her moving," the man had said. "Don't let them find her." Rourke had never seen him again now, but Varaxians had found them. "Orders, Captain?" Mara asked. Rourke's voice was steady. "All hands to battle stations. Power to shields and weapons. Plot intercept courses." Mara hesitated. "We're outnumbered." 10-1. We've done worse. The cum crackled. A voice came through, deep, resonant, and full of venom. Human. Captain, we meet again. You took something from us. We've come to take it back. Rourke answered without hesitation. You'll die trying. The Varaxian commander's laughter was like metal scraping metal. We remember the Widowmaker. We remember the core. This time, there will be no escape. The channel cut. On the bridge, Vale's hands were tight on the controls. Captain, they're spreading out, trying to encircle us. Let them, Rourke said. We'll cut through. The first salvo hit. Brilliant red lances of plasma streaked across the void, slamming into the Vengeance's shields. The deck shook under the impact. Shields at 70%. Mara called out. Return fire, Rourke ordered. The Vengeance's main guns roared, white-hot beams tearing into the nearest Varaxian cruiser. Armor shattered. The ship spun out of formation, trailing debris. Multiple targets closing from port, Vale shouted. Brace, Rourke said. The Vengeance rolled hard, enemy fire flashing past its hull by meters. The crew moved like they had trained for this moment 100 times, because they had. Down in engineering, Reese cursed under his breath. Core's running hot. If we push it past 90, we risk do it, Rourke said overcomes. You know what happens if we... I said do it. The hum of the Vengeance's engines deepened. A vibration ran through the deck. The black-red glow began to pulse faintly along the ship's seams. The crew didn't need to be told. The Widowmaker was waking up. On the Varaxian flagship, alarms flared. Core signature detected. An officer shouted. The commander's eyes narrowed. So it's true. The human still carries it. The Vengeance moved like a predator through the enemy formation. It dove between two warships, unleashing a volley of pinpoint fire that tore through their reactors. Both exploded in twin bursts of white light. The rest of the Varaxian fleet adjusted, closing in tighter. Captain Mara said, Can't keep this up forever. We won't, Rourke replied. Hit the flagship and break their command. The rest will scatter. Vale glanced at him. If they don't, Rourke's eyes stayed locked ahead. Then, we make sure none of them leaves here alive. That's the flagship loomed ahead, larger, heavier, bristling with weaponry. Its hull was scarred from old battles, but its weapons gleamed with deadly precision. The Vengeance dove straight at it. Plasma fire rained toward them, the deck shuddering with each near miss. The shields flared, buckled, but held. 50%, Mara called out. Steady, Rourke said. They closed the gap. 5,000 meters, 4,003. Target locked, Vale shouted. Rourke's voice was calm. Fire! The Vengeance's main cannon unleashed a single beam of blinding white, slammed into the flagship's shields, tearing them apart in seconds, before the Varaxians could recover. The second shot hit right into their forward reactor housing. The flagship erupted. In a storm of fire and debris, the rest of the Varaxian fleet faltered. Some broke formation. Others turned to flee, but the battle wasn't over. Not yet. From the drifting wreckage of the flagship, an escape craft emerged. Sleek black, moving fast. Captain Mara said, The commander's getting away. Orcs. Eyes darkened. Not this time. The Vengeance turned, engines flaring. Pursuing the craft into the darkness between the stars, the hunt had begun. The stars around them seemed to dim. Not from distance. Not from shadow. From something else. Something alive. The Vengeance was chasing the Varaxian commander's craft through a graveyard of shattered ships, hulks from wars so old their names were forgotten. No one spoke on the bridge. Every console. Light seemed duller, as if the ship itself was holding its breath. Range closing, Vale said softly. 2,000 meters. The commander's craft weaved through the wreckage like a snake, using the debris for cover. But the Vengeance followed. Every turn, every evasive drift. Matching perfectly, almost too perfectly. Like the ship already knew where the prey would go. Captain, Mara said. He's heading toward the rift. Rourke's jaw tightened. He's trying to lose us in there. It's the rift. A region of space where gravity and light twisted into strange shapes. No maps, no escape routes. Ships went in and never came back. The cum crackled. The Vraxian. Commander's voice again, low and taunting. Do you feel it, human? That hunger? The thing inside your ship? It's calling to me, because it is ours. Rourke didn't answer. His eyes stayed forward, but his hand hovered over a control no one else touched. Down in engineering. Reese's voice came over comms. Captain, the core's stirring. Reading spikes in the black matter chamber. This isn't normal drift, it's like it's listening to something. Seal the chamber, Rourke said. Too late for that. It's Ming. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The hum was faint. Barely more than a vibration in the floor. But it carried through the whole ship. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't random, it was pulse, like a heartbeat. They entered the rift. Stars warped into arcs of light. Shadows stretched in impossible directions. Colors bled where no colors should be. The ship's sensors screamed in protest. The commander's craft darted deeper. Captain, Mara said, if we go any further, we're not letting him go. The hum grew louder. Vale's hands were white-knuckled on the controls. She's moving on her own. The Vengeance's thrusters fired without command input. Weaving between warped asteroids, diving past collapsing pockets of space, the crew's eyes widened. The ship wasn't following orders. It was hunting Reese, Rourke said. Status, Captain. The core's fully awake. Power output's climbing beyond safety limits. If this keeps up, it's going to the deck shuddered. Not from enemy fire, from inside. The lights dimmed to red. The hum deepened to a roar. The black-red glow bled along the walls. The Widowmaker was no longer just a ship, the Varaxian. Commander's craft appeared dead ahead, caught in the rift's strange currents. Fire, Mara shouted. Rourke's voice was calm. Not yet. Crew stared at him. Captain, Vale said, we have the shot. Not yet, Rourke repeated. His eyes weren't on the target. They were on the forward viewport. At the rift itself, something was moving in the darkness beyond the commander's craft, something vast, the Vraxian. Voice came again, this time strained. You don't understand, human. That core is not yours to command. It remembers us. It will come home. The glow inside, the Vengeance flared brighter, deeper, pulsing in time with the hum. The rift seemed to answer, folds of space curling toward them like fingers closing into a fist. Captain. Reese's voice shook. We're pulling energy straight from the rift. I didn't even know that was possible. It's not, Rourke said. Not for any normal ship. The Vengeance surged forward on its own. The crew felt themselves pressed into their seats. The commanders. Craft tried to escape, but the Widowmaker was faster. A single blast of black-red. Light tore through the void. It didn't just hit the Vraxian ship. It erased it. The rift went silent. The glow faded. The Vengeance slowed, drifting among the ruins of its prey. Status. Rourke asked quietly. Reese's voice came back. Hoarse. The core's stable again, like it. Went back to sleep.
No one spoke for a long time.
Finally, Mara asked the question everyone was thinking. Captain, what is the core?
Rourke didn't
look at her. His eyes stayed on the stars twisting outside. It's the reason the Varaxians aren't extinct. The Widowmaker drifted. No pursuit, no targets, no sound, except for the faint, almost imperceptible whisper in the hull. Mara was the first to notice. She was checking navigation logs. She felt it, a slight vibration under her fingertips, like tapping. From inside the console, she froze, pressed her ear to the metal. The tapping stopped. Down in engineering, Reese stared at the core chamber's display. The readings were normal. Too normal, Captain? It's quiet. Yes, Rourke didn't look up from his seat. That's not good, Vale muttered under his breath. I'd take quiet over what we just saw. Rourke turned to him. Quiet means. It's thinking. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. Nobody asked how Rourke knew that. That night cycle. The crew slept in shifts. Mara woke to the sound of footsteps in the corridor. Slow, measured, not rushed. She grabbed her sidearm, stepped out. Corridor was empty, but there was a shadow at the far end, not a figure. Not exactly. A smudge against the dim light, the shape of something tall with jagged edges that seemed to flicker. Mara took one step toward it, and the shadow vanished. She told no one. Reese had his own encounter. He was checking the coolant lines when his visor feed flickered. Static swept across his HUD. Then a face appeared in the distortion. Not human, not Vraxian, something older. It looked at him, smiled, and then it was gone. By the third day, the entire crew was on edge. Whispers in the comes, doors opening by themselves. Tools left in one place, found in another. Rourke called a meeting in the briefing room. He stood at the head of the table, hands clasped behind his back. "You've all felt it," he said. "The core is not just a power source.
It's a vault.
And whatever's inside, it's starting to wake up." Vale shook his head. "You make it sound like it's alive." Rourke looked him dead in the eye. "It is." No one spoke for a long moment. Finally, Mara asked, "Then what are the whispers, the shadows?" Rourke's voice dropped. "They're not hallucinations. They're the ones who used it before us." A chill ran through the room. "You mean ghosts?" Vale said. "Not ghosts," Rourke said. "Echoes. Fragments of minds burned into the core when they tried to control it. They didn't survive." "And us?" Mara asked. "That depends on whether it decides we're worthy." As if in answer, the lights flickered. The hum returned, slow, deep, deliberate. And this time, every crew member heard the same thing in it, a voice not in their ears. In their minds, Hungry Reese slammed the control to seal the core chamber. It didn't respond. Somewhere deep in the hole, metal groaned like a wounded animal, and the Widowmaker began to move on its own. Turning toward a region of space no one had plotted, Captain, Mara whispered. "Where's it going?" Rourke didn't answer, because he already knew. The stars outside the viewport blurred, not from speed. From the ship-bending space itself, the Widowmaker was going somewhere no chart had ever marked. Rourke stood in the center of the bridge, watching the readouts scroll in alien symbols. "Reese," he asked. The engineer shook his head. "That's not our language. That's the core talking to itself." Vale's voice cracked. "Captain, we're not in normal space anymore." The viewport was no longer black with scattered starlight. It was white. Endless, searing white, as if they'd sailed straight into the heart of a star. Then the white began to take shape. Structure emerged. Vast, ancient, made of the same impossible alloy as the Widowmaker's hull. A station, or a tomb, the voice returned. Not in words, not even in sound. A pulse of thought. "We are here." Rourke took a step forward. "What do you want from us?" The pulse changed, sharper, colder. "Choice?" A section of the station's hull opened, revealing a glowing core chamber identical to their own, only empty. Images filled their minds. Armadas burning. Empires falling. Worlds erased in seconds. The Widowmaker had done it all before. For others who thought they could control it, now it was offering the crew the same bargain. "Take my power, become feared, or end here." Mara clenched her fists. "If we refuse," the voice did not hesitate. "Then I wait." For another. The crew looked to Rourke. He could feel it testing him, pressing memories into his skull. The screams of fleets that had faced the Widowmaker, the silence that followed it, promised him victory. It promised him safety, promised him everything. He whispered no, and fired. The Widowmaker shook violently as he overloaded the reactor. Warning sirens screamed. The voice in their heads roared with a rage that was not human. The crew ran for the escape pods as fire licked through the corridors. Rourke was the last to leave. He looked back once at the burning bridge. "Not this time," he said. The Widowmaker exploded in a blinding sphere of light, tearing the station apart in a silent flash. Hours later, drifting in the dark aboard the emergency craft, the crew watched the debris fade into the distance. No voice, no whispers, only silence. Mara turned to Rourke. "It's over," he nodded. but his eyes stayed on the stars until someone finds another. Far away in the wreckage, something glowed faintly, waiting. The end.